Everyone. Let us now discuss the physiology of hearing part 2. In part 1, we talked about how the sound is basically heard, and then we talked about the various types of hearing loss, that is the conductive, sensorineural, and mixed kind of hearing losses. And then we just talked about the step up action or the transformer action of the middle ear, that is converting sound of greater amplitude and lesser force to that of lesser amplitude and greater force. And what is the transformer action? 18 to 22 times the force at the tympanic membrane. The force, if it is 1 unit, it is by the time it has reached the foot plate of the stapes, the force has increased 18 to 22 times. We talked about that. Then we talked about the components, that is of the transformer action. One is the aerial ratio, the second is the lever ratio. We talked about these two. The rest of it we will talk in this presentation. So coming to the third part of the transformer action, that is the curved membrane. Important is the aerial ratio, then the then the lever ratio, then comes the curved membrane effect. Tympanic membrane is more mobile at the periphery than at the center, where it is attached to the handle of the malleus. Yeah, this is obvious. The tympanic membrane is having more mobility at the periphery than at the center, where it is attached to the handle of the malleus. This adds to the force of the sound. This curved membrane effect also adds to the force of the sound. So this is also a component of the transformer component of middle ear. Okay, then coming to phase difference. What do you mean by phase difference? Sound when the sound from the air gets reaches the tympanic membrane, the sound passes it passes through the ossicles to the oval window. At the same time, it is passing through the air to the round window. But because you have the ossicles, the movement, the transmission of the sound here is faster and obviously at a more intensity than at the oval window region, because of which the oval window and round window never vibrate together. So if the oval window is in compression is moving inwards, the round window will be in rarefaction because the sound wave has not yet reached the round window. So here, if it is in compression, here it will be in rarefaction. If the round window is in compression, then the oval window will be in rarefaction. So there will always be a phase difference between these two. Because there is a phase difference, and only because there is a phase difference, there will be an establishment of a pressure wave which is traveling from the round window to the oval window through the helicotrema. Because if both were getting compressed at the same time, there is no chance that there will be a traveling wave. Okay, so because and only because there is a phase difference, that is round window is at compression, oval window is at compression, and round window is rarefaction, then there will be an establishment of a pressure wave or a traveling wave. Pressure wave through the scala vestibuli and scala tympani, and the traveling wave along the basilar membrane from the base of the cochlea to the apex of the cochlea. Okay, so that is what we are trying to discuss right here. Sound from tympanic membrane goes to the oval window through the ossicular chain and also through air in the middle ear. That's what we talked about, also through air in the middle ear. So sound does not reach the two windows simultaneously. So if the sound is at oval window, it is causing compression. At the same time, round window will be at rarefaction. They both will not be compressed at the same time. Because of this difference in phase, okay, one is in compression, one is in rarefaction. So because of the difference in phase, it causes effective transmission of sound in the inner ear fluids. Only because there is a difference in the phase, there is effective transmission of fluids to the inner ear fluids. This causes the sound waves. Sound waves causes oval and round window to move in opposite direction. Yeah, that is what we mean. When the oval window is moving inwards, the round window will be going outwards. So they are moving in opposite directions. This causes the establishment of a traveling wave in the basilar membrane. So when a basilar membrane, it gets displaced because there is a pressure wave. The basilar membrane gets displaced, and this starts a traveling wave in the basilar membrane, which sweeps from the base towards the apex of the cochlea. So this is the most important part actually. This is the basilar membrane. We have this basilar membrane which is at the this is the base of the cochlea, this is the apex of the cochlea. So the tube above, there is a pressure wave, the tube below there is a pressure wave, and this causes the traveling wave to get set up in the basilar membrane. So the basilar membrane wave starts at the base of the cochlea, and as it goes, it will reach the apex of the cochlea. Okay, this forms the basis of the traveling wave. Okay, now yeah, this formed the basis of the traveling wave theory. This was proposed by Helmholtz, but it was proved by George von Beckersey, for which he was awarded the Nobel Prize. So what does it say? The sound impulse sends a wave sweeping along the basilar membrane. That's what we were talking about from the beginning. Suppose this is the basilar membrane. This causes the sound impulse causes a wave sweeping along the basilar membrane. The basilar membrane, which was initially flat, now the basilar membrane will have a wave. The basilar membrane, entire basilar membrane moves, okay, in the form of a wave from the base of the cochlea to the apex of the cochlea. Wave's amplitude increases until it reaches a maximum, then falls off sharply until the wave dies off. Suppose it's a high frequency sound, what happens? Suppose it's a high frequency sound, what happens? So this basilar membrane will reach its maximum amplitude at the base of the cochlea. Suppose it is having a mid frequency waves, it will reach its maximum at the middle of the basilar membrane. Suppose it is having low frequency sounds, it will reach its maximum at the apex of the cochlea. So that's how the different areas of the basilar membrane, or the different areas of the cochlea, they get stimulated by different regions, and that is how that information. So now this basilar membrane, or the entire basilar membrane, is connected right through the central nervous system. So this part of the basilar membrane is getting stimulated. So this part of the nerves will transmit those waves to the central nervous system, and that is how the brain understands that this region of the basilar membrane is getting stimulated, and so that is the frequency of the sound wave. Okay, the point at which the wave reaches its maximum amplitude is the point at which the frequency of sound is detected by the ear. Detected by the ear. This is the key word here. Detected by the ear. That is how the sound is detected. Okay, suppose the entire basilar membrane is moving at the same time, then the entire basilar membrane will get stimulated. And how do you understand whether which part of the basilar membrane is getting stimulated? That is how the basilar membrane has, depending on whether it's a high frequency, whether it is a medium frequency, or whether it's a low frequency. High frequency sounds are detected by the base of the cochlea, low frequency sounds at the apex of the cochlea. Okay. Now, that's what I wanted to say. High frequency sounds at the base of the cochlea, low frequency sound at the apex of the cochlea. For his studies on traveling wave, Beckersey won the Nobel Prize in 1961. So this is the diagram showing the basilar membrane. Basically, the entire thing is the basilar membrane, and as we are going at the base of the cochlea, the basilar membrane is detecting 20,000 hertz. As we are going above, it's 7,000. As we are going above, 5,000, 4,000, 3,000. The frequencies are getting down. This frequency is getting down lower and lower and lower till it reaches the apex of the cochlea. It is detecting 200 hertz. At the base of the cochlea, it is detecting 20,000 hertz. So that is how the higher frequency sounds are detected at the base of the cochlea, and as the frequency of the sounds are getting decreased, the basilar membrane towards the apex of the cochlea will be getting stimulated. Okay, now coming to the natural resonance of the external and middle ear. Natural resonance. Now we understand what does it mean by resonance, right? So each part of the external and middle ear has a resonating frequency of its own. The external ear has a different resonating frequency. The external auditory canal has a different frequency. Tympanic membrane has a different resonance frequency. Ossicles have a different resonating frequency. But all this frequency only in the external and middle ear. It has got nothing to do with inner ear. So what do we understand by that? Whenever a sound of the same frequency passes through that part of the ear, its transmission is accentuated. So what are the natural resonating frequency of different parts of the ear? Coming from external auditory canal, then comes tympanic membrane, then comes ossicles, then comes middle ear, then comes ossicles. Okay, so everything is half of it. Suppose external auditory canal is 3000 hertz is a natural resonance of external auditory canal. Middle ear, tympanic membrane is half of it, 1600 hertz. Then the middle ear is half of that, that is 800 hertz. And the ossicles basically they have a frequency from 500 to 2000 hertz. What is the importance of this 500 to 2000 hertz? Whatever are the speech frequencies, that is one person is talking to another, that language, that speech, the ossicles are having that frequency. So these are important frequencies, 500 to 2000. This is where if suppose a patient is having a problem only in 500 to 2000 hertz, but less than 500 and greater than 2000 is having excellent hearing. So you are testing, you are having your capacity from 200 hertz to 20,000 hertz, right? So you are having above 2000 is having excellent hearing, below 500 is having excellent hearing. But what is the use? The speech frequencies are gone. The speech frequencies are the most important frequencies when it comes to testing in pure tone audiometry, when it is coming to applying a hearing aid. All that boils down to 500 to 2000 hertz, which are the normal speech frequencies, and that is done by the ossicles. Okay, that is done by the ossicles. So natural resonance of this entire external and middle ear, you can remember it, where if you remember, first comes the external auditory canal, then comes the tympanic membrane, then comes the middle ear. If you remember it like this, then it is 3000, uska half will become 1600, uska half will become 800. That is how you can remember 3000, 1600 and 800 hertz. Ossicles, you just keep it away from this. Ossicles, you can remember that they are basically having the normal speech frequencies. Okay, like that you can remember this part. Mostly this, while writing the exam, yeah, definitely it's important, but in NEET PG this becomes a really important thing. Okay, what is the natural resonance of the external auditory canal? What is the natural resonance of the tympanic membrane? Such questions can be asked. So each part of this external or middle ear has a resonance of its own, and if sound of that frequency reaches that particular part of the ear, that particular part of the frequency is accentuated. The transmission of that particular frequency is accentuated. So that is how also the transformer action of the middle ear functions, because each part of the conducting system has a resonance of its own, and when a sound of that frequency reaches, its transmission is accentuated. Okay, now coming to the summary of the various parts of the external and middle ear and how does it contribute. What does the pinna do? The pinna is basically collecting the sound and concentrates the sound towards the external auditory canal. Okay, pinna is basically, it is bigger and the external auditory canal opening is smaller, so it's collecting the sound and it is concentrating the sound towards the external auditory canal. External auditory canal, because of its narrowness, causes increase in sound wave velocity. Because of its narrowness, the sound is coming from all over, but it has to pass through this narrow tube of external auditory canal, so it increases the sound velocity, increases the sound wave velocity, and it is having a natural resonance of 3000 hertz, we just talked about. Then coming to tympanic membrane. Tympanic membrane, what are the various factors? Tympanic membrane, the greatest and the most powerful of all transformer actions is the areal ratio. Why? Because the tympanic membrane area is 45 to 55 millimeter square, and the footplate of the stapes is 3.2 millimeter square, and that is how you will get this areal ratio of 14:1 to 17:1. Also, the tympanic membrane has a curved membrane effect. The periphery of the tympanic membrane vibrates better than the center of the tympanic membrane. This also increases the force of the sound. What is the natural resonance? 1600 hertz to 800 to 1600 hertz is a natural resonance of the tympanic membrane. Third one is the ossicles, the handle of malleus, incus and stapes. Malleus, incus and stapes. What is the important transformer action here? We have the lever ratio. Why? Because the handle of the malleus is longer than the long part of the incus by 1.3 times. So the force of the sound is increased 1.3 times. So my areal ratio into lever ratio, what does it become? 18 to 22 times. So that is the units by which the force of the sound is increased, or suppose that's what I already given an example. 1 unit of energy at the tympanic membrane becomes 18 units of energy at the footplate of the stapes, or even 22 units of energy at the footplate of the stapes, and that is how the transformer action is functioning, and that is why Rinne's air conduction is greater than bone conduction. Okay, because of the transformer action of the middle ear. And ossicles also have a natural resonance that is equal to the speech frequencies, these are very important, because if the speech frequencies are gone, then the ability to communicate itself is gone. Okay. Then middle ear is nothing but the tympanic membrane with its ossicles. That's the total transformer step-up action, that is the aerial ratio into lever ratio, that is 18 to 22:1. And middle ear has a natural resonance of 800 hertz. So 1600 hertz the external auditory canal, 800 hertz, sorry, this is 3000 hertz external auditory canal, then the tympanic membrane is 1600 hertz, and then the middle ear is 800 hertz. This is a natural resonance. Oval and round window, how do they contribute? How do they help in the step-up function? Because of the phase difference, which leads to the formation of traveling wave. Without the formation of the traveling wave on the basilar membrane, there is absolutely no way you will be able to hear the sound. Okay, so phase difference means the oval window and the round window will never be in the same phase. If the oval window will be in compression, the round will be in rarefaction. If the round window will be in compression, the oval window will be in rarefaction. So they will always be phase difference, and that's how the pressure wave passes through the perilymph of the scala vestibula and scala tympani, and that causes the establishment of a traveling wave on the basilar membrane, which causes a particular part of the basilar membrane to get activated, and that information is passed on through the central nervous system to the cochlear nerve. Okay, with this we come to the end of the transformer action of the middle ear. Thank you so much for the patient listening.